Ladies and gentlemen, making his way into the studio is Adam Johnson. Adam, is his mic on there, Gio?
I believe so.
There you go.
Yep,
How are
there
you,
go.
buddy?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back on.
I was very interested in catching up with you, and I figured that the pardon happening would be something interesting to talk to you about. If you don't mind, because people may not have heard you on the show the first time, can we talk a little bit about January 6th and how you got there and how you were misidentified as a guy who stole Pelosi's podium and all these things? Because I'll tell you, the first time we had you on the show, a lot of people were mad at me. A lot of people were giving me crap about me. I said two things. One, even if this guy was a villain and he was a bad guy, I would still have him on the show because he's a person of interest. And that's what we do. We talk to interesting people on the show. Then we ended up having you on. You were way more intelligent than I think people expected. I would, because you look at some of those riot videos and they look like a post Philly game in after the Eagles. It just looked like a bunch of dudes running around and climbing walls and stuff. But there were some people that were there for different reasons, and then there were some people that got caught up in what was there. And in my mind, what you did was you had the time, you went down there, and you found yourself wound up in it. And said, "Hey, everybody's going to the Capitol." We ended up in the Capitol, and then all of a sudden the melee happened, and you're like, "I'm here," and I couldn't stop saying to myself, if that was me, I would have probably have done the same thing. Not because I'm lashing out against the government, but because I got caught up in the moment and what was happening. So anyway, let's start from the beginning. You're sitting home. You are a stay-at-home dad. Your wife is a doctor, I think?
That is correct.
Okay, and you were a stay-at-home dad. And you are the kind of guy that has the flexible schedule. So when the inauguration was happening and there was going to be a protest, you wanted to go up to protest, or you kind of wanted to see what the whole thing was about? Like, how much of the Trump stuff were you into?
I think definitely the latter is a bigger reason why I went. There was a bunch of things that happened, COVID lockdowns, mandates, we're locked inside of our homes. I'd never been to a Trump rally in my life.
Right.
I only voted for him in 2020.
Right.
So hadn't been to a rally, so I thought this is the last rally. Let's go take a look at it. They're supposed to be wild. He's saying it's going to be a wild rally, so I showed up to take some videos and get a first-hand account.
Yeah, I did go to a Trump rally here when they had one in Tampa for the same reasons, for curiosity. First, he's a celebrity. He's coming to town. It's my town. I felt like I should kind of be there, So I went to the first one, and it was a weird kind of thing. Also, it was very enticing because he would say, "Look at the crowds that's here," and that the cameras won't turn around and show the crowds. And you're like, well, I want to see the goddamn crowds. I'm going to go down. And the only way to really make those decisions is to go and see for yourself. So you decide to go on up there. Solo, or did you go with anybody else?
I went with a buddy of mine. We do jujitsu together.
Okay.
It was a very impetuous decision. This was not some long planned out thing. I think it was 2 weeks before January 6th. We actually bought our plane tickets to go up there.
Okay, so you go up there, and what are you doing the time you're up? You doing a little sightseeing, little tourist things while you're there?
First time in DC, so we walked around town. Beautiful city. If you've not been, I definitely recommend going when it's warmer for sure.
It's a cold city in the winter months for sure.
It is. So we went and saw Alex Jones speak in the park. I'd never seen that guy speak either. So listen to him, listen to Owen Schroyer. Just kind of walked around getting a vibe and a feel for the whole city.
It's kind of like, to use a Super Bowl reference, when the Super Bowl comes to town, even if you're not going to the Super Bowl, there's a bunch of other things happening around the town that are worth going to see. Even if you can go, I think Alex Jones is nuts, but I love to watch him on his clips on YouTube and stuff because he says some interesting stuff. Whether or not it's fact-based or not, it doesn't matter to me. I just like watching him yell and scream and stuff.
It's bombastic. It's fun. I mean, you watch it because it's entertaining.
And also, I feel like you're witnessing history. You're there for a part of history, whether whoever wins the election or whatever happens, you're there in DC where it's happening.
Yes. I basically Forrest Gumped myself into the pages of history.
Right.
That's how I joke about it. The entire scene with the lectern just happened out of nowhere. I didn't kick down someone's door. I didn't break into a building. I mean, it's been, I think, 4 years since that date now?
Yeah.
And, I mean, a lot of things have been found out since then.
So that was one of the big interesting things on the show. So at what point do you make it from wherever you are to the Capitol building? Like, what is happening where somebody says, hey, we're storming the Capitol? Or do you say, hey, there's a group going over there? Like, where are you? Because having talked to you on and off the air, you don't seem like that kind of guy. You're not the guy that's like, let's go storm the Capitol, but you do seem like the kind of guy you're like, we're here, let's go see what's going on.
That sounds like a lot of cardio running towards a building 2 miles away.
Yeah, yeah.
know? So we're listening to Trump's speech. He says we're going to go down to the Capitol. We're going to march peacefully and patriotically, was I think his rhetoric, and let our voices be heard.
Right.
So everyone just kind of starts careening down the road. It's a long walk. It's about, I think, a mile and a half, 2 miles from the ellipse down to the Capitol.
Is it getting rambunctious? Or people chanting things? Or people
People
just
are
walking
just walking.
peacefully?
They've got flags who are just walking. I think we got down towards the National Archives, and I'm sitting up on the steps, and I hear from the crowd that they broke into the Capitol.
Right.
And at this point, the pace does pick up because holy cow, what's going on?
Sure.
And if you hear like there's a bad accident or something happened, white people have this this innate responsibility to run towards the danger instead of away from it.
Right.
So we all start running down towards the Capitol.
Plus, also, who doesn't want to see that? I mean, it doesn't mean that you are going to go storm the Capitol, but if there's stuff happening, I want to see what's going on. I mean, it's happening right in front of our eyes.
Everyone slows down for a traffic accident, right? I mean, this is just human nature.
Yeah.
So we're all, we all hate each other for it, but everyone does it.
Yeah.
So we run down to the Capitol at those points, and by the time we get there, whatever barricades were there in the first place, they weren't there when I got there. So I didn't know barricades had been crossed. I just knew they were in the Capitol.
Right.
I get there on the west side of the building, and at this point, there's like a semicircle of officers that are just kind of tacitly standing around, and a bunch of protesters who were singing the national anthem, just kind of careening, cruising around.
Okay.
Not much. At some point, they release gas into the crowd, concussion grenades. This is on video now. These are things I didn't know 3 years ago. So I think it was the Metro Police that actually threw these munitions into the crowd without asking the crowd to disperse.
Just because they were there singing the national anthem.
And they were not authorized to use those munitions. They were actually told by their superiors, we're not using those right now. They launched them anyway.
Right.
At this point, people start getting gassed. And when you have concussion devices and gas, falling at your feet in the middle of a crowd, you're going to have people go forward and people go back.
Yeah, that crowd is spread out.
I think a lot of the riot happened because of that.
Yeah.
And I do say there is a riot. We've seen the video. People were assaulting police officers. That is on video. We've seen it.
Right.
But the majority of people were not doing that. And then if you look at the charges, I think there were 1,600 charges. Only, I think it was 200 of them had violent charges.
Right.
And even in those violent charges, some of those charges are simply, there's video again of people patting officers on the back saying, thanks for being here. Thanks for your service.
Yeah.
And they caught an assault charge for that.
Because they're physically touching the, that's interesting. So you, at what point are you like, I'm going to go inside? Were you following the group, or were you seeking shelter, or were you like, now I'm angry, I'm going inside?
After the gassing,
Yeah.
I walked away from that because it's not a comfortable experience.
Sure.
I walked up some scaffolding, took some pictures. There's hundreds of thousands of people there. It's more than I've ever seen in a football stadium.
Right.
I noticed some people are walking inside, so I follow people inside the building.
Now, do you know at this time you shouldn't go inside, or like, are they trying to stop people from going in, or are you just like, hey, it's open, I'm just walking in there?
No one is stopping us from going inside.
Right.
And at the time, it's a public building.
Yeah.
I did walk in the wrong door. That it's the Senate wing door. There is an actual proper door to walk through.
Yep.
So if we're talking about did I trespass? Technically, yes.
Okay.
That is true.
Was anybody trying to stop you from going in there?
No.
No, right? It was just there.
There was zero resistance walking in those
right.
doors.
Okay, so you didn't have to push through anybody to get in. You weren't necessarily being told not to go in. You just walked inside.
Just walked inside.
Okay.
Me and about a few hundred people.
Yeah. And is the mentality as people are walking inside, let's destroy this place? Are they screaming? Are they just like, because I've seen some video where it looks like people are being destructive.
Yes. So again, there are two groups of people, two temperaments of people.
Yeah.
And I think one of the worst things that we see is that we pull all of these people together and say all these people are bad. There are some people who were destroying things.
Sure.
There are some people who were very disrespectful, and those people, it's like, well, that's not a great look. And you kind of sully the waters that I came here to be in.
Right. This wasn't your plan to do this, and now you're caught up in it, and you're in the middle of what's going on around you. So are you thinking at some point, I'm going to get in deep trouble for this, or are you thinking they can't get us all?
I definitely think it happened after I left the building.
Yeah.
The picture had went viral. I couldn't use
hold on, but let's before we get there, let's talk about that. So the story is you break into Pelosi's office, kick her door down, punch her assistant in the face, say, I'm taking all your stuff, grab the lectern and walk out. But that's not the case at all. From what I remember you said, that happened to be positioned under a staircase.
Yes.
And you did not break in anywhere to take it, and you
No.
just picked it up for a photo opportunity.
Yes, this was not a secure, location of the building. This is where the public tours happen. I've been there a handful of times before
Right.
or after the fact, and this is a place where the tour actually walks you through. So this is not a private place, a secure place that I broke into.
Yeah.
I didn't even open a door. It's sitting out in the open. I move it 39 feet to the center of the rotunda. I smile and wave because photographers are taking pictures. I set it down, give a short speech, and walk away from it.
Now, did you have any idea that you would be a focal point of that day? You and the shaman. There was like, in my mind, it's you, the shaman guy, and the guy hanging from the bricks on the outside. The guy, I mean, those are the three pictures that stick out in my head. I mean, you had no idea what was going to happen after that.
No, I did not.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was Getty Images taking the photo. I didn't know it would be released immediately.
Yep.
I've seen video now of actual Capitol officers looking at my picture while I was still inside the building.
Wow.
It was that
It
quick.
went that quick. Huh?
Mhm.
So I remember getting updates. They're in, they're out. This guy stole Pelosi's podium. I mean, that was it was coming through in those orders. So you put the podium down, you gave your little speech or whatever you did, and then do you continue to walk through or do you exit after that?
I continued to walk through.
Right.
So, never been in the building before, not really sure where I'm going, so I'm meandering, without a license.
And other people are doing the same thing.
Yes.
Okay.
I will tell you, as we were walking through through that narrow corridor going into the rotunda, they were, chanting USA, USA. When they hit the rotunda, it got quiet. I mean, like pin drop quiet.
Really?
There's something really powerful about that room. It's our history, and
Yeah.
it's our shared history, and it got very quiet. People, I don't know, kind of changed their timbre, their tone. Right? It was more respectful. They were
Yeah.
taking pictures. They were walking around, and that was the group that I was in.
Okay.
After the lectern, again, just kind of wandering around, I noticed there's a group of people walking further down the hallway, right? So there's the rotunda and then statutory hall. So I follow this group down statutory hall. I'm texting my wife. I'm like, hey, I'm inside. I'm taking some pictures. She's like, you should leave. I'm like, I'm going to leave in a minute. I'll leave in a minute.
Always the C blockers, the wife.
Exactly. So we make it down towards what is I now know as the Senate chamber doors. Again, never
Didn't
been
know
there
where you're
before.
going.
Yep. And we're sitting by the doors, and I'm talking to a guy next to me, and I'm like, "What's over there?" He's like, "Oh, that's where they're counting the votes." And I said, "What are they still doing here? It's been hours. I assume these people would have been rushed out of the secret tunnels and
Right.
brought somewhere safe because this is, probably not the safest place for them right now." A lot of people are very upset.
Yeah. And did you think that were they really in there counting the votes, or did this guy just think?
I never went inside the chamber, so
Right.
I don't know.
You don't know.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
There was some fire extinguisher or some type of gas that was released down in the hallway. Again, some type of chemical irritant. Didn't care for it, so found an officer, asked him how to leave. He said, "We're exiting people. Walk down this hallway, take a right, and you'll exit the east face of the building."
Did you see anybody, any senators, any legislators, any people in there that
Nope.
looked like they might have been in danger or that you were interrupting their day other than just being in there?
Nope. It was a bunch of officers walking around and a bunch of people walking around.
Right. So basically, like you said, meandering around the building, kind of maybe a little bit more free access than they're used to in there. You exit down where the police officer told you to go. You go outside. When you get outside, is it as normal as it was when you went in, or you're like, whoa, something's happening?
I think your Super Bowl metaphor is probably the best way to describe it. They had trucks parked up on the lawn. They were blasting. I think Bruce Springsteen, "Born in the USA," was playing for a little bit. It was
Right.
it was crazy stuff. But again, people were just standing on the steps and waiting around.
Yeah.
They were draping flags from outside the building. It was because it's multiple stairs, multiple stories. They were draping USA flags and these things, but it didn't have that. It wasn't the production that we saw MSNBC put on years later with the J6 committee.
Right.
The selective editing, the grabbing a handful of footage, putting it together, and saying these were the worst parts of the day.
Right.
Because we saw what was it? Tucker did the walkthrough with the shaman.
Right.
A completely different narrative. So again, depending on where your source comes from, you can have two different impressions about what happened that day.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I don't feel like I'm pretty good at a BS detector. And talking to you the first time, people gave me a hard time for not pushing you, and I'm like, pushing him into what? Like I almost put myself in that position. I'm a curious guy. I have the means to travel to DC. I could see myself doing something like this, and then I could see me getting caught up in the whole thing, and then all of a sudden, I could also see myself instantly regretting some of it, and feeling the effects of it. So you exit out of there. Everything is over. At what point are you like this? This could be bad.
It was walking home. My phone had or home, but back to Georgetown.
Right.
So 2-3 mile walk back. My phone had died. It's charging up my backpack, and I turn it on. I can't even use it because there were so many
Oh,
messages coming in all over Facebook, Instagram, regular messages. Couldn't even use it. So I had to put in airplane mode, download a handful of them, and that's when I knew, like, oh, this is probably going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who I am now.
But I mean, you instantly became famous from that. From it's iconic, and whether people are gonna like it or not, it's always going to be that picture of that day.
That makes me think of something. What is the dumbest thing someone has come to you with? Like, I'm sure that you got hit up by so many people. You should do a rap. You should have this. Like, what's
show.
what's like the dumbest thing? You're like, there's no way I'm doing that.
Oh man, there has been a lot of things. Good Lord. People want me to recreate the events all the time. I
Yeah.
traveled to DC a handful of times, like, oh, you should go steal the lectern again. I'm like, well, that put me in prison, so that's a
not a good
horrible
idea.
idea.
Are you on Cameo?
I am not. I am not on
Because I would
Cameo.
imagine a lot of
Yeah.
people on Cameo like stand behind a thing and say happy birthday to this.
The
you
amount
know?
of grown men who have asked me to hold them like the lectern is astonishing.
Okay, so you know that there's going to be trouble, and then I recall from talking to you last time, they were looking for you. They already pinpointed who you were, and then you called and turned yourself in, right?
Yes, I actually called the AUSA and said, hey, I'm not fleeing. I'm driving home to be with my family.
Right.
My number is this. I live here, not running. So if you need anything, give me a call.
Yes.
So from day one, it's like, look, I think there's a big misunderstanding here.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is not what it is. So
Right. You're labeled as the guy who stole Nancy Pelosi's podium, but the truth is you're a guy who just walked through, stopped and took a picture with it, and walked out on the advice of a police officer as to how to get out of there.
yes,
And now the whole world is looking for you, and you leave them a message and give them your information. How soon until you're contacted?
we hired lawyers on the way back down on Thursday, and by
Now,
Friday,
who do you call? Like,
So-
how do you know who to call?
good buddy of mine, his name is Jennings DePriest. He's pretty well connected in Tallahassee, politicians, lobbyists, things like that.
Right.
So he knows good federal lawyers,
Okay.
good attorneys.
Smart. Yeah.
So he told me, hey, you should definitely lawyer up. They're coming after you.
Wow.
So we hired them, Dan Eckhart,
What
Dave
is that?
Bigby.
What is that feeling that you get when your guy says you should lawyer up? They're coming after you. I've been called and told you're fired. I've been called that you're getting sued. I know that feeling. It just drops. Your stomach just drops into your butthole.
It's actually very scary because federal charges, when they read the complaints, it's the United States government against you.
Whoa,
That's
you
how it
villain.
reads.
Yeah.
So that's not a fun place to be in.
So this guy,
you look at that and you go, all of them?
Exactly. All of you people. I know at least half of you like me.
So you get this guy. He hooks you up with a lawyer, and then what does the lawyer do? Does he arrange the meeting? Does he arrange the what?
The AUSA, which is the Assistant United States Attorney's Office, gets in contact with my attorneys. They're talking. They ask them where the lectern is if I still have it.
And you told him.
I said absolutely not.
Right.
And what's ridiculous about this is the video again. It's been 3 years, 4 years now. We have more video. You see the officers actually collect that lectern 10 minutes after I leave it. It was
Right.
always in their possession. And what's even worse about this is that one guy actually stole the microphones off the darn thing, took them home. This guy only served 10 days in jail and a $50 fine.
I would have done that. I'm being honest. I
Souvenirs.
would have wanted to have some sort of souvenir from that day. I would have taken. So I wouldn't have ruined anything, but I would have probably stolen something like that. That would have been like maybe not the microphone, but something like would have been great to have would be the eagle on the front, the piece that's on the podium.
yeah.
Like
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that would have
For
been
sure.
cool.
So do you think you saying that about the guy taking the microphone and he only served 10 days and did all that stuff, do you think the photo of you waving is the thing that put it over?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say because it's like, look at him, he's waving at us like he's going to take it. Let's get him, one of those kind of things.
My crime, which is not an arrestable crime, is I embarrassed them.
Yeah.
That photo
yeah.
kind of stands a testament against the narrative they wanted to build for the past 4 years,
Yeah.
right? So you look at that photo, one side loves sharing the photo, the other side does not.
Yeah.